Yeah, I haven't seen a video really on exactly how to do this. I've seen, I'm going to removing the transfer case for my Mazdaspeed 6. I've seen videos on rebuilding the transfer case, which they don't show you how to take it out. They just show you taking it apart after they've already taken it out. And there was a write-up on, I think it was Mazdaspeeds.org. They Mazdaspeeds. That's where I saw it, and they printed off a whole bunch of pictures, or they did a bunch of pictures. I printed off a sheet with all the instructions and whatnot. I'm going to attempt to show this. I'm not a mechanic. I'm a YouTube mechanic. I don't mean I'm on YouTube mechanicking. I mean I learn from YouTube. So hopefully this helps you if you've got to do this. I have to do it because I need to replace my oil return line, and the long story short, I ended up rounding the bolt on the bottom, and it's super difficult to do anyways. Trying to reach the bolts under the turbo is really difficult. The ones down low you can get to, but the bottom one, I'll tell you what you need. I'll show you what you need. I didn't get it till it was too late. If I'd had this when I was at first, I probably could have gotten it fine. But the issue is the angled box end wrenches. They can't lay flush on the bolt because the transfer case and the transmission, they're too close together, and so it ends up being angled on the bolt and it rounds it. And so that's what happened to mine. I did it a few times. I realized what was happening, so I tried some different things trying to get it undone. Couldn't do it. So I'll show you what I ended up getting here. Finding this is on, got it on Amazon. It was like, I don't know, 60 bucks or something, but they're long box end wrenches, but notice there's no angle. This fits up there perfectly. And so if you need to replace that oil return line and you want to try to do it without removing the transfer case, this is kind of what you need to do, because it's an 8 millimeter. So 8, 9 on this side. So it's a nice little set. I like them all right. What is it? Bull Tools. Couldn't find anything like this at Home Depot or Lowe's. So anyways, and I'm not doing it in my lovely shop. So I bought this house because I got a great shop. But as you can see, I got all kinds of stuff here. So anyway, so we are doing it outside because I need room to get the wheels off and work on the sides and fun stuff. But the first things you're supposed to do, remove the wheels, and then start removing the brake caliper. And then you got to remove the ball joints. Eventually you got to remove the subframe. And so I'm going to do my best to video this. I live near an airport, and Air Force, so sorry about the airplanes. This is the instructions that I printed off from the Mazdaspeed site. So I'm gonna do my best to follow these and whatnot. The first thing too that I will try to show you, because the pictures didn't really show me, and I'm still noob when it comes to some of this stuff, is, sorry, hold on a second here, exactly where or which things are which here. So that's your drain plug. The fill plug, let's see if I can get it to focus. Let's see here. There's your fill plug. Took me a little minute just to find that spot. So that's the fill plug and the drain plug. And while I'm down here, I'll show you. That one right there is the one that I couldn't get off, and I tried using the chisel to try to knock it. Ended up starting to, that was my last ditch effort. You can see I started just breaking it apart, which I really don't want to do. But you can see how tight the space is right here, and I mean, you can't fit a socket up there. It's ridiculous that you've got to take this thing out to be able to do that. But such is life. So here we go. All right. This took way longer than it should have. Go figure. Um, uh, so I ended up cutting that nut off. Let me show you just what I did so that hopefully it'll save you some time and whatnot. So I got some air tools, went and looked at them, realized I didn't actually have a die cutter or the cutoff tool. You can't use that on the die grinder. You have to get, anyways, blah blah blah. Well, I started cutting off on that side. Well, first I just cut it right there, and then I started cutting this side because that's what I saw people doing, and then they just knocked it through. The problem is it's really tight trying to get back there, and you can't get the right angle, so I had like chunks left over that I was trying to grind down so I could bump it through. Finally, I was looking at it, I'm like, you know, I could cut off the nut side and it should pop through the other way. And so that's what I did. I was actually, and long story short, having problems with my air compressor and my angle grinder. I'll show you. Just barely fits in there. There's the spot where there we go. It just barely fits in there. So if you do something like this and you get that raw metal like that, make sure you clean it all up and paint it before you put things together so it doesn't rust. But also, so both my hex on the interior and the nut, the hex was rounded inside like a 5 millimeter hex, just spun, and the exterior was starting to round, like it wouldn't go. I could not get that thing off. So, and it took me half the day to get it cut off because multiple trips to Home Depot to make sure I had to get the right things, and not working, etc. Welcome to working on cars. So, yeah, good luck. Alright, so here I am on the other side, and it's just crazy how everything's so different on the same car. Let me show you. So, this one came off super easy, no problem. And this one was the bottom one. Just boom, came off. The other side, that bottom one, I couldn't get a socket on it. It just wouldn't budge. It's like all kinds of problems. This one is moving, but it's pretty tight, and I'm having a hard time trying to get my hex to keep they get the hex in there and the wrench in there, just not a lot of space to get things squared away. One thing that is helpful is taking off the brake line bracket. So this goes in right there, but when it does, it's like right here, right where the wrench needs to go. So you undo that bracket and you can move it out of the way. It gives you some space. So there's a little tip. All right, next little phase here to give you some thoughts and updates. Hopefully you've watched this whole thing before starting the project. Anyways, so I'm getting to the point of removing the ball joints, and the instructions say tap it with a hammer. And I'll show you here. Now, using the breaker bar to get these loose went exactly as expected. Exactly as I wanted it to go. Got them loose, no big deal. I've been hammering on these things with my 3-pound sledge, but the problem is there's not a lot of room. If you're on a lift, maybe you can get more room in there. And so I started looking, doing a little research, and found, oh, they make a special tool for that. It's called ball joint remover. So I'm going to get a ball joint remover or a clamp, that kind of thing. So you can rent it usually at the auto parts store. So something to have on hand before you decide to get started. All right, so this is Captain's Log 47. I don't know. Anyway, I know this is all in one video, and I have updates throughout the video, but that's okay. Anyways, so I tried to get a ball joint remover. Doesn't work on this car. Not the right kind of thing. Then I researched and like, oh, there's this thing called a pickle fork, and it's kind of like a wedge you shove in there, and Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. Basically, there's the two ball joints right next to each other, and the only thing I can figure happened is when I had it in there, that this one side was hitting the other ball joint, and so it was pushing it while the rest of it was staying straight, right? So it bent it, and that was a bear to get out of there. And so hold on, throw this down here. I as I continue to research, or look, there's a different kind that I went ahead and ordered on Amazon, and I'll show you. This bad boy right here, it's like, I don't know, 25 bucks. I just got this thing off with almost no effort in like 15 seconds. Required a 24 millimeter socket, and I just went bloop, 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 and I don't know, maybe you can, I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, yeah, I know you can't really see it very well here right now, but trust me, it is loose. Now I'm going to tell you, leave that bottom nut on so when it breaks loose, it doesn't go flying. You don't have the joint go flying. I got to do the other side still, or the other one. I only did one of them, but super. If you're trying this job by yourself, using this will be a piece of cake. So anyways, you'll already know how to make it all work. So best of luck to you. Oh, also, side note, I did damage that a little bit, so I decided to get some new ball joints, but you can't get just ball joint. It's the whole thing. And so I'm probably actually going to maybe replace a few of these things while I have this open and whatnot. But anyway, have fun. All right, I'm back already. Spoke too soon. This first one went really easy, but I'd already been pounding on that one and used the pickle fork and other stuff, so I think it might have been a little looser. This other one, there's not enough room for the socket, so I'm using the wrench to get it undone. You can see how much I've been tightening this thing down. And it's like pop goes the weasel, because you're waiting for it just to go pop. And this thing is really tight. And I don't know why it's taking so much, so I just moved it. And it's a little bit hard to get it actually put in there all the way. Like I was hammering it with my sledge until it just wouldn't go any further. So hopefully this all works out all right. It is a little more difficult on the back one. I think maybe it's because it's the back one, not the front one. Maybe it's because I worked on that one a bit. I really don't know. So stay tuned. All right, we did finally get it. I figured out what my problem was. Woo, there we go. So I'll show you that here. So my problem was, let's see here. I'm just gonna do like this. This is how it goes here, like this. I did not have this on the nut fully. Hold on a second. Because I didn't get it hammered in as far as I really needed to, it was kind of sitting like this. So as it pushed, it was actually pushing the nut like this on the bolt. So I figured that out, and I actually took it apart, hammered this in, then while this was in, I put this in, put the bolt through, cranked it down, got it off in a few turns. Wasn't super bad. But now, so just be forewarned, the problem that I have is that this nut, where is it? Where's the nut? Where's the nut? Down here. I can't even see. Anyway, the nut underneath is now stuck to the bolt. In the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal, because like I already mentioned, I'm probably going to go ahead and replace those control arms just to have the new. You can't buy the ball joints by themselves. and so it's a package set with a new control arm. So, and that has a new stud. So if I cut this at the stud, then it'll come right off. I shouldn't be having any problems. Hopefully that won't happen on the other side. But anyways, tool works. So it's on Amazon, and it works really good. Although, because I had it off and it just kept going, it was really pushing into digging into that metal. And this was round. Whoops, I don't know if you can see if it's focusing on there. I'm in a flat spot on it now, and it doesn't really roll anymore. But I could tell it's there so that when you start and you're at this angle, it actually it gives you more surface area for it to be pushing on. So anyways, that also had a lifetime warranty on the package, so keep those package information. If you have a problem with it, return it. Anyway, there you go. Alrighty, so at the point of removing the subframe, and again, these instructions, they talk about removing, first of all, there's a couple of bolt sizes they have wrong. They say 19, they should be 17. But they mentioned power steering bolts to remove the power steering rack. So basically you can leave the rack then hooked up and lower the subframe. Talking to my builder, he was like, I don't know, he's like, I just removed the rack on the inside to undo the 12 millimeter bolt in there, undo that joint, and lowers the power steering rack with the subframe. So I'm like, that sounds easier because the placement of these bolts is kind of tough, and it's only 1 instead of 3, etc. So I'm at this point of slowly lowering the subframe. You definitely got to make sure that you have all of these connecting things undone. There was 2 that I had missed that were you can see them right down there. I missed those 2. So it was kind of stalling some things, but also it takes a little bit to knock it out. I'm kind of slowly lowering, jack it up, lower my jack stands, lower it back down, and it doesn't always go all the way down. I use my rubber mallet, just kind of pound it a little bit and get it to lower. So ultimately, though, my goal isn't exactly to drop, oh yeah, it is, to drop transfer case. Forgot. I'm trying to change the, get to a bolt that's right between the transfer case and the transmission. So, it's super fun. Anyways, so you can see here's the power steering rack. There's 1 bolt, and then there's 2 down on the other end. And so, anyway, you can see my downpipe's disconnected and all kinds of fun stuff. But anyways, yeah, I think we're getting somewhere, and I'm hoping I can put all this back together. All right, Captain's Log 476. I got the subframe out. I'm still not liking these instructions. Like I said, the builder guy who told me to leave the power steering rack on, but I had to unhook the power steering lines. Sorry, selfie mode, I forget how close it gets. Unhook the power steering line, so you lose a little bit of power steering fluid. Whatever, it's cheap, it's easy to put in. On the one hand, I think that was easier to get things out. However, getting it back in, trying to get things lined up and get the drive shaft, or the power steering shaft, lined up might be difficult, so I'm tempted to unhook this and hook that back up. Take those 3 bolts out, hook that up to the shaft there, so it'll be solid in there, and then do the subframe and hook those bolts up. I'm tempted to do something like that. I don't know, we'll still see. But I'm a little frustrated with these instructions because it said to remove the subframe. Now it says to loosen up those bolts right there. The problem is trying to get leverage when you got no rear motor mount. This whole thing rocks. Like, I could have loosened those up while it was all still nice and solid. It would have been easy. And so now I got to figure out a way to either stabilize it or go get my air wrench, which I'm gonna have to use an extension because it's a big fat thing, etc. Just kind of annoying. So again, hopefully you've watched this whole video before starting, and I would say if you're doing this, you'll want to at least loosen those bolts before removing the subframe, or before removing your rear motor mount. And also, side note, if you've already got a downpipe, like, or aftermarket downpipe, I was letting it hang the whole time. Just undo your two oxygen sensors. I undid one of them, and then it was just still kind of hanging, and I finally just, you know, unhooked it. Makes things a lot easier. But anyways, so I'm gonna yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. We'll see here. I'm sure by now you're ready to, or you're done seeing this face interrupt this video. Anyways, so like I just got done saying, I'm pretty sure I did. You should really loosen up some of these bolts before taking the frame out, assuming there's access. I didn't look for that prior, but I can't imagine why there wouldn't be access. Well, maybe the frame does get in the way a little bit. I don't know, but it is a little difficult with the engine moving. Now, let me show you something here. So I ended up using a breaker bar with two long extensions to get that first one. It's that one in the middle, if you will, towards the back. There you go. That one right there. And there's one up on the top, which you're not going to have access because of the wheel well. But this is one of my smart farts here. I realized you've got access right here. And that's the bolt right there. So I was able to get my breaker bar in here, and now, you know, just cranking it this way, I got room. I was able to get it broke pretty quick. The other one was a little bit more difficult. I was trying to support the engine, trying to shove a piece of wood between that transmission and back here, and it's just tough. So good luck. All right, finally got everything off. What would I say? You just gotta work at getting those bolts off. You know, kind of the mid-range extension. You know, just kind of get under there and get it. I was able to get it finally. Couldn't use. Did I use the breaker bar? I couldn't get the breaker bar in there entirely. Or did I get? I think I got them broke. I think I got the breaker bar in. I just got them broke enough. Anyway, it was interesting. But what I'm doing, so I'm having to replace this part. I think I showed this at the beginning of the video, because let's see if I can get back to, there it is. Will it focus? Come on. Sorry. See that crack right there? That was spewing oil. I'm putting some flex you can see on it. Under pressure, oil will just spew out of there. So, good times. All right, here's a little summary. Because I really didn't do a bunch of video at the end. I didn't show the transfer case out. I was just ready to get the job done and kind of forgot to record some things. But there she is in the back in her ugliness. Not the prettiest car, but the engine runs good. You'll definitely, you can get the transfer case out by yourself. I used a jack, had a smaller jack, and just lowered the transfer case, kind of pulled it out and used that and got it down. I'm gonna guess that thing weighs at least 50 pounds. So just be aware of that. It did come out pretty easily, but once you start putting things back in, you're gonna want another pair of hands. I used a jack to jack the transfer case back up, try to hold it in place a little bit, and I did that after I partially dropped it on my head, hit my eye socket right there, or the orbital socket. But cause you got to get it lined up, and I wasn't getting it quite right, and it was tough. You also need you might want at least one other person to help get the subframe up, and I put it back up the same way I got it down. I kind of put it up on some jack stands, tried to kind of like slowly lift it up and get into place, and it really wasn't difficult actually to get the steering rack up into through the firewall. That actually was a lot easier than I thought it would be. So I did not have to remove the power steering rack. And then looking back as well, or towards when I was putting it back in, I realized you don't need to connect any of the power steering lines if you're removing the power steering rack with the subframe, because that's all connected. Oh, nope, I lied. I take that back. You do have to don't have to unscrew the lines from the subframe like the instruction said. You have to unhook the line from the power steering pump up top, and let that come down so it'll drop, and you'll lose some power steering fluid. But I think that was a lot easier than having to do those bolts. Just their location was really tough. And then I put the subframe back in, or get that back up, got the bolts. Get a torque wrench, and not just any torque wrench, but I have one that goes up to 80 pounds. But there's some of those bolts down there need like 120, 140 pounds. And so spend the money, even if it's a Harbor Freight. I think I got one, I think it was $50 or $60 at Harbor Freight. It goes from 50 pounds to 250. And it has a nice 24-inch handle, so it will, you get good leverage on it. And so make sure you have that. What else would I suggest that you have? I don't know. I think that was it, because putting everything back together actually went all right. I got everything put back together in half a day or whatever, and I put in new control arms, new upper, new lower, new end links. I mean, all that stuff was new, so it actually all went in pretty easily. And I had to reconnect the downpipe, the oxygen sensors. I had to put it, put my intercooler pipe. I had some other things removed because I was trying some other things. They don't all need to be removed though for things. So I think that's it. I hope this helps. I know it was not thorough. I understand that. That's because I'm not a mechanic, and I really need to get the job done because I needed my car. And if I'd had a second person to video everything as I was doing it, I know it would have been a better video, and whatnot. But hopefully this does help you. And yeah, best of luck to you. And remember, cars are pain.